Okay guys, finally the A500 Mini has arrived. We're going to unbox it, going to play some of the games, I'm going to give my thoughts, see if it's any good. Let's go! So guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. We're going to unbox this. We'll just have a quick look at the box. I think we've all seen the box by now, right enough. It's got lots of details on the side. Tells you it's 50Hz, 60Hz, 720p. It's got all the games on the back. WHDLoad. Remember to get that on your USB if you want to add your own games. It's all the games. Rated 12. And some more details about the contents on this side, which I'm sure we're all very familiar of now. Anyway, let's get the box opened. Okay, when you're opened up, this is what you're greeted with. It's really looking cool. Pretty similar to the C64 Mini if you ever had that. It was covered in this sort of plastic sort of top and you sort of lifted it out. We'll get the actual A500 out. Okay, we'll have a look at that in a second. Pretty cool. Also in the box we've got your A500 Mini quick guide. We sort of lift this box up. You've got your two boxes, you've got your mouse and your joypad. And that's really it. So in the box we've got your mouse. There's also another cable in here. It's well packaged away. It looks like there's an HDMI cable was inside the mouse box. So inside the other box was the gamepad, and I guess this is probably the power cable of sorts. Yep, that'll be your power cable to get started. Okay guys, we'll have a quick look at some of the devices. This is the actual joypad. It looks quite nice. It's a little bit like the CD32, I guess. Feels a bit plasticky. The sort of shoulder buttons are a tad plasticky. I like the colour, it gives that sort of retro feel. Got a menu and a home button, X, Y, A and B. That feels okay. I suppose the proof will be how it actually plays. Interesting why they didn't include a joystick, but if you look at the C64 Mini joystick, that was really absolutely terrible. But I suppose there are better joysticks out there that probably could be purchased and played instead. I'm sure a lot of people will probably be trying that. Just as a thought, the actual cable that's supplied here is probably about 2 meters long. It's not too long, but I suppose it's long enough you want to maybe try and sit on your couch and play if you're playing on a big TV, which I probably wouldn't recommend playing on a big TV. It's probably better off playing on a sort of smaller TV or maybe even a monitor. But this is the actual mouse that's supplied. Seems okay. Not a roller ball mouse, which would have been probably more old style and more appropriate, but it seems alright. I think it'll be pretty good for playing games with. It's not huge, so it fits in the hand quite nicely. So as a size comparison, you can see the size of just a standard smartphone and the 500 Mini. It's pretty much about the same size. It's not huge. It's got a reasonable amount of weight on it. Maybe as comparison, this is like an arcade cartridge. If you look at the A500 Mini, these keys do not actually function, unfortunately. If you want to use a proper keyboard, you can actually plug it into one of the USBs and use it that way. You've got your power socket here. If you look at the sort of side, this is really just, it's really just for design. It doesn't actually function. Look on the back, you've got your power stick, you've got your power outage, you've got your HDMI slot. So you've got your 3 USB sockets, you've got one for your mouse, keyboard and your controller. I suppose you really need another 1 or 2 because you need your USB stick for your extra games. So something's got to give somewhere. And that's it. Nothing really on the back, just the number. That's the number that I've got, serial number 12,000 odd. Yep, I bought this myself from Amazon. This is not gifted by Retrogames at all. And don't forget guys, you've got your quick mini guide. It's definitely worth a little read, get some information. There are links on the Retrogames website that gives you all the instructions for all the games, which I'll leave in the description. It's quite handy if you want to know how all the games work. Certainly worth having a little read through this, as they always are. There's only a few pages per each language that's in here. Anyway, definitely worth having a little look. Oh, here we go. This is my setup. It's basically a sort of little monitor I like how it lights up. Isn't that cool? I would recommend a similar setup, just using a smaller monitor, but obviously ideally some people might have to play this on a large TV, but I wouldn't recommend it, but it's not impossible. I just think it looks better on a sort of modern sized sort of monitor, about 17, 21 inches, 24, whatever, something like that. Okay guys, this is probably the opening screen. Just select your English or whatever language you prefer, press B for next. So apparently it's probably best here to choose the 50Hz option, which is at the top, so choose that and select run television test, I guess. And it's fine. Press Y to accept and move on, and we are now at the main screen. So if you're familiar with the C64 Mini, you'll probably recognise some of the noises with the selection. Obviously each game, you maybe will start looking at the options. Each game should have save states, so you just press down, you've got your saves for each game, which is pretty cool. Press up for help, it shows you the actual controls for that game, which is really cool too. So if you want to see more details on each of these games, the full instruction manuals are on the RetroBiz website, which I'll leave in the description, and it's really helpful because some of these games definitely need a little bit of extra help. Here we go. Let's have a look at the menu options. You've got your usual fixed size, moderate zoom, screen fit. Fully up to you what you prefer to do. You want to add a CRT effect, image smoothing. I'm just going to leave that on. You might want to prefer a slightly blockier view. It's up to you. Bit of experimentation what you prefer there. Mouse sensitivity. Again, this is going to be something that you want to sort of change to suit yourself. It really depends how you like it. Power LED, that's quite a nice touch, I suppose. You want to mimic the original Amiga behaviour. Language, you've got a few options here, as we've already seen. Advanced options, television settings. Again, we've already seen some of that. We've got a part for a 720p image without cropping. Probably a little bit of experimentation needed. This tells you what the build we're currently on. Legal notices, usual malarkey. You maybe want to read through that, and tells you all the licensing. Factory reset, nope, I don't want to do that. Shutdown device, that's your option, you want to shut down, and that's it. So, really without further ado, when we jump into one of the games, you can obviously set that as a favourite if you want to. You can see the I don't really know what the 4 stars mean, to be honest, whether what that actually does. Not entirely sure. Maybe that should give each of these a rating. Yeah, I guess so. Interestingly, it tells you how many players. If you look at the top left there, it tells you how much each game, whether each game can be used with a mouse or not. Obviously, some of the games are only controller only, and you can see where you move to worms. You've got the sort of little mouse icon, and they've got more than 2 players can play this, which is good. So I think we'll probably start with the Alien Breed 3D, and we'll get stuck into that. Let's press A to begin. Oh, and we're straight into the game. Let's just play the game. Very quick to load as well, which is quite impressive. So Y opens the door. Oh, something's eating me. Just try to learn the controls. You can certainly hear something which kind of gives that spooky feel. This is really cool, this game. But this one's not too bad, probably a little bit blocky, but it plays well. I think I probably slightly prefer the 2D version of Alien Breed, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's still a really decent game, which I'm looking forward to probably get my teeth stuck into a little bit further. Get back out, press the menu button, brings up the keyboard. Obviously this is the virtual keyboard, which I suppose it's there, it's much like the C64 Mini. If you want to, you can actually plug in your own keyboard and use like a proper keyboard, but there's obviously minimal amount of USB spacage, so that may be a problem. You may need to get some kind of adapter to work that. But I'd say most of these games should be fine without it, but you will probably, if you're playing your own games, you might need to get your own keyboard and use it. Depends what type of game you're playing, really. So if you want to go out the game, press home, and to obviously save the state, you want to go on to press down, press A to save that, and that's it, done. You want to load it again, you just press A, and that's it. Easy peasy. Very simple. just be careful. Obviously, if you want to make sure you don't override your saves, you can press X to lock or unlock so you don't accidentally oversave it, which I think is a really nice touch as well. So let's move on, we'll try Alien Breed now. Now I'm quite impressed, the emulation seems pretty good so far, early days obviously, but the games are loading extremely quick, which is very impressive. If you play these games on other emulators like the Raspberry Pi for example, it still takes a little bit to load in. It's not as slow, but it's much quicker on the A500 Mini, so far I'm really impressed with that. Look at that, how quick the loading is really impressive. I don't think I can state that enough, to be honest. So that's a cracking game, I really enjoyed this game. I probably slightly prefer this game to playing the 3D version. Lulling you into this false sense of security. Oh, we're getting attacked now. Oh, the aliens just start to appear from everywhere and anywhere now. Anyway, excellent game. We'll move on to the next one, I think. So just press home again. Again, you want to save it, you know what to do. Just press down, press A if you want to save it, but I'm not going to save this one this time. We'll maybe quickly run through all the games, give you a feel for what these games are like. Just let's see, how cool is the music? Really nice touch. Love it.
Layers activated. Node activated. Layer saved.
Destroy waves for power-ups. Select now for... Destroy waves for power-ups. Select now for nice power up. Select credits for bonus weapons. Destroy waves for power up. Select credits for bonus weapons. Select now for stealth. Select credits for bonus weapons. Stealth on. Select now for guns. Power up. Guns. Power up. Stealth off.
Get ready. Replay. Get ready.
What's this? First blood. Oh dear.
Okay guys, that's us had a look at all the games. Now there's not a great selection of games, it has to be honest. Some are good, some are not so great at all. It's just a personal choice. There's some games that are quite in-depth and a couple of minutes video will not do it justice. Some games actually utilise the mouse, which is quite cool. Some games probably need a couple of buttons with the keyboard, but in general you really don't need the keyboard, I suppose. But other games that you might download may require a keyboard, and you can add your own USB keyboard. So what we're going to do now is look at adding your own games via WHDLoad on USB stick. Now, I've had a few issues with this so far. I've made a guide with it. The guide is perfectly okay, but the only issue with it is probably the type of USB stick that you are going to use. Now, I've had, I think, 3 now, and the third one was the one that worked. I'm going to explain that a little bit more. So guys, just jumping in here, I've got 3 USB sticks. I bought this one here, which is probably a bit too large. It's 128 gig, and it didn't really work. I think it needs to be partitioned. This one is just a 4 gig standard USB stick. That didn't get recognised either. This one is the one that did work. Is a SanDisk, I think it's a slider or a glider. Yeah, so this one worked. It's a 32 gig Cruiser Glide SanDisk, and this one worked. The initial one I used in the video was 128 gig, which I think might be too big. You may have to partition it to sort of get it down to size to be more recognisable on the Mini. I don't know. We need a little bit of feedback from the makers of the Mini to see if there's issues with certain sizes, issues with certain types, because I've used 3 types and only one out of the 3 actually was recognised. For instance, I'm going to input my initial 120 gig and it's been formatted as per the guide, and nothing was recognised. It does come up here, as you can see. I've put it in and you go in here and it's telling you to go to the site to download the package, but I've already done that. So what I've done was I went through and tried a different USB stick, and one eventually did work. So here I'm going to put in the SanDisk Glider. Now the SanDisk Glider is a 32 gig size. That's probably better suited. Even a 16 gig would be absolutely fine. I reckon there's issues with compatibility with sizes and types of USB sticks, so be wary of that when you are actually loading. The process is easy enough to follow. Drop the zip file onto the folder, unzip it, make sure it's the A500, that's the main folder as you look in here now. Make sure the A500 folder, which includes the WHD file, is at the top of the folder at the start here. Press the yellow button to go back folders. Now the issues I'm coming across are the fact that the games, I've put all the games in the A500 games folder. I've pretty much put an A to Z in here. They have to be the .lha formatted file. Don't take them out the zip files, just leave them as they are and they will play absolutely fine. You cannot play .adf files at present. Perhaps in a future firmware update we will. Apparently that is in the works, so hopefully within a few weeks, maybe in a few months, we may get access to that. So the at present is .lha files. So the other issue I have is the size of the folders are not all recognised. I've got A to Z in here. However, in the folder it only goes up to B. There must be a certain folder size that it only recognises. Not sure what's going on here. Bit of an issue. You're going to have to get a little bit creative to how you're going to play some of your games that you want to see, which is a little bit of pain. You may need to sort different folders that will recognise lots of folders, but the individual folder sizes such as this, it's only went up so far. Now that is really annoying. So what I've done is handpicked a few games and dropped them at the start, and they're recognisable and playable here. Not sure if you can drop all of them in here. I may test that at the end of the video. Interestingly, you can actually play CD32 games as long as they are in the .lha file format. Pretty cool. Not all games will play, you may get some dodgy ROMs or something, but anyway, without further ado, I'm going to have a look at some of those games that I've loaded now. So when you can select a game. It doesn't actually start it, however. Once you select it, you get extra options at the bottom. As you can see, press the menu button, you get game settings such as changing the height of the frame that you see when you're playing your games. You can change it to NTSC. You can mess about with where you want mouse, joystick, CD32 gamepad, mess about with the mouse speed, and you can also map the gamepad if you wish. Most games should probably map okay, but you may have to think about that depending on what game you're actually playing. Now let's try some of these games now. So to start a game, you need to press home, which is starting the game. So guys, also a nice touch is when the game's actually loading, the little green light sort of flickers on and off while it's actually loading. So something that's quite apparent to me is that The games in general, the ones that are actually loaded to the Mini, the emulation is really good and they load extremely quickly. Also on the USB stick, the games do generally load quite quickly too. Beneath the Steel Sky is usually notoriously quite tricky with the voice acting. Not sure if I've picked a ROM that didn't have the voice acting, but obviously it wasn't included there. But we're going to play through a couple other games and see what they're like. This is Citadel, which was the game that came free with the WHD download package from A500 Mini themselves. So let's have a quick look at it and how it actually performs. So interestingly, this game played with a combination of the mouse and my keypad. Not sure how that's really working, to be honest. You maybe need to change some of the settings to get it how you probably prefer to play it, but that certainly was a bit strange, to be honest. I think probably some button mapping might actually help there. So here we've got a CD32 game, just going to try it. It's still in the .LHA format, so it's apparently it does play. So let's have a bash at it. And the load times are generally pretty fast. And that's something that's definitely blown me away, is the emulation is really good and the game time load is really good too. Probably one of the best emulations I've seen from Amiga, and I've seen quite a lot of them. Got to say, this is one of my all-time favourite games. I've probably played the C64 version more, but this is probably the best version, to be honest, isn't it? Oh, oh, I might be out. I'm out. Classic game though. That's a shame that some of these games were not added automatically, but you can go through and add your favourite games, such as Turricane. Now, this is a great game. Absolutely fantastic. Might be one of my most favourite Amiga games, I would say. Was it better on the Commodore 64? Oops. Arguably, was it? I do not know. Probably not. Great game. Not sure this D-pad really does this game justice, to be honest. I think in some games it definitely shows up as not being the greatest way to play the games. No doubt this is definitely one of the best games on Amiga. By a long way, absolutely fantastic. But everyone's got their favourite games that you'll probably add. And I'll probably add a lot more as I go. Okay guys, what I've done is, just as a test, I've dropped all the games folder into the main folder at the start, but it's really still the same. You're restricted by size. And I see I've gone from A to Z, but it's jumped a few. Going through it all, the folder size still seems restricted. We've went from B, C to the games we've just played all the way to Z, so it's missing loads in between. So file size must be a bit of an issue. There's no up and down, can't really go up and down here either. So this is clearly a massive problem that will have to be fixed in a firmware update. So what I would recommend is just pick and choose a handful of your favourite games, or separate them into different folders, because the folder sizes are clearly restricted. This is a bit of a problem. Hopefully it'll get fixed at some point, but that is a little bit disappointing, to be honest, at this stage. Okay guys, just to sum up my overall thoughts on the A500 Mini so far, my first impressions. I think the device itself, it looks really cool. It's disappointing there's no working keyboard. It's just sort of just there for decoration basically. The mouse and the actual joypad are fine, not spectacular, but they are fine. Some games I definitely didn't enjoy using the D-pad, for example, in like Chaos Engine. I just felt the movement was quite restrictive. It's not the best. I think in a future video we'll look at different controllers that we could probably use and be compatible. Like an 8-bit controller, for example, should probably work using the USB sort of wireless dongle, perhaps. That should actually work. I think it's something that will probably have to work because it's not the greatest controller. Admittedly, it's probably better than the C64 Mini joystick, so that's something. But it's not my favourite. But the emulation itself is absolutely fantastic. Games load extremely quick. I love the music in the background as well. There's sort of save states for each game. Oh, that sort of reminds me of a point. The USB games, there's not save states for every game. So for instance, if you've got a save state on the USB stick, you've only got 4, that's it, 4 saves for every game. That's not ideal. Ideally you want to save states 4 for each game that you've got, but I've guessed due to size that you've only got 4 save states for your entire USB library, which isn't ideal as well. That could cause potential problems going forward as well. Just a nitpick, obviously the USB function is not great. Obviously the games play well enough, they emulate well, they're pretty quick. I've not come across any major issues. I'm pretty sure there will be games that are not the most compatible out there. CD32 games work. .adf files will not work at present. Folder size in the USB obviously is a problem. You won't see all your games. File types as well, problems. The type of USB stick they're using, problems again. Maybe the size, problems. But it's just little nitpicks, things that hopefully these will get sorted through firmware updates. Definitely be aware of that, but overall I'm pretty pleased with the A500 Mini. It is pretty cool, and it's probably one of the best emulations for Amiga out there. I've played sort of the Raspberry Pi and a lot of others, and this has probably been the most impressive I've played apart from the Amiga itself. Anyway guys, thanks for watching our video. Please like, subscribe, and we'll catch you again in the next video. Bye for now.